been almost a month, Troy, since we checked in with
Mhm.
Sylvain Cormier in our last Confessions of a Card Dealer. Time goes by very, very fast. So we're excited. We were excited to check in with Sylvain. I think we did last night. We recorded. Our goal is to see what's going on in his world as he continues to build up his card business, and as his goal to make selling his kind of, I think, full time gig. And as we run up to the start of the 2024-25 season, I was curious to know, like, what's he doing right now? Is he buying or
Mhm.
selling? What some of his wins are? Has he had any kind of tough losses over the past week? And then, really, what his thought process? We're kind of in a weird time in the hobby where the
Yep.
season's right around the corner, but it's still sort of summer. There's not really anything going on. People are still, like, in the NHL world, I think, on vacation largely.
Mhm.
This is like when you see all the players' wedding photos on
Yep.
Instagram, and
McDavid just got married.
yeah,
He
yeah,
Mhm.
just got there. So, like I said, we're excited to check in. And with that, we'll get right to our conversation with Savan. It is chapter 3 of Confessions of a Card Dealer. You guys hear that?
I've gotten used to it. I hear it all the time now.
We're going round 2. We're gonna go twice.
Yeah. You know what it is? It's the hobby church bells. And that means it's time for another Confessions of a Card Dealer with our good friend Sylvain Cormier. This is chapter 3, right? Did I do that? Did I do good?
Nice. Yeah. Very good.
Okay. Nice. Well, hey, welcome back.
Thank you
Chapter
so
3.
much.
Here we go.
Thank you. I'm excited to be here.
I looked the other day and it's been about a month. It doesn't Time flies. It seems like it was not that long ago, but it's been a while. And so a lot to get into today. We've kind of gone through the background. We know who Sylvain is. And if you have not listened to chapters 1 or 2, maybe in the episode we'll put it like in the description, or you might just have to go find it. We'll see if we forget. But yeah, episode 1 we kind of did the background. Episode 2 we talked a little bit about the big Zach Hyman lot that you bought, and we'll kind of maybe start there for an update, and then we'll move on to some other stuff. And really kind of curious too how you're viewing the end of August, early September, and like what you're gearing up to do. But let's start with Zach Hyman. So,
Sure.
from my recollection, where we left off is you bought this big lot of Zach Hyman cards, like 40.
Yep.
A bunch you sent to grading, some you sold right away, and everything was kind of turning up roses, which is nice. It's
Yeah.
fun when things work out
Yeah.
at
Absolutely.
first. And did you hadn't gotten the ones back from grading last time we talked, had you?
I had not.
Okay, so do we want to start there? Is that a good spot?
Sure. Yeah. Absolutely.
Okay, listen.
I don't. So I don't have the exact numbers in front of me right now, but I did make an Instagram post. If you're interested, I'm just doing a shameless plug here. If you want to follow me, Lashwine on Instagram, I do break down a little bit more the numbers and my gem rate and what I paid for grading. I had other cards in that batch too that I graded, but I want to say more than half. So were Zach Hyman cards. I think I graded 22 Zach Hyman cards. So out of the 40 that I got, I want to say a little over a quarter of them were already in a PSA slab. Some of them were in Beckett slabs, and some of them were in BGS like raw reviews.
Yeah.
The Beckett slabs and the raw reviews took them out of that and sent them to PSA with a bunch of raw cards. There were a bunch of silver foil young guns. There were a bunch of regular young guns, a few clear cut young guns, and I'm happy to say that all the silver foils and clear cuts graded tens. The regular
Wow.
young guns were yeah. So 2 clear cuts, 7 silver foils, and there were 8 regular young guns. 4 of them got tens. My gem rate on the Hymans were, I want to say, around 70%.
Jeez.
I inspected them really well, and I was surprised at so many raw cards. The only raw cards from that lot that I didn't grade were the acetates and 1 Future Watch auto. And I moved. So there were 2 acetates and 1 Future Watch auto. I moved 1 acetate and 1 Future Watch auto. I still have 1 acetate Young Guns, and now I've got them back from grading. I put them up for sale. I didn't get any bites, but I did send them to get auctioned off at Slab Sharks. I want to say about more than half of what I received, especially the higher end stuff, like a Future Watch Auto Inscribed, PSA 10, a Young Guns Exclusives, PSA 10, which is Pop 1. So that grade,
Okay.
I was happy with that grade. I sent in
Mhm.
2, and one got a 10, one got a 9. And so they're at Slab Sharks, but they're stacked. So like I sent the shipment with cards. I said I want this week 1, this week 2, this week 3, just because
Nice.
I don't want to just flood eBay with
Yeah.
high end Zach Hyman cards.
Yeah.
So yeah, so I kind of have them stacked. They're gonna hit the auction this Thursday, the first week, and then we have a few more weeks. With that said, I do want to add that yeah, I posted some of the all of the cards that I got from PSA. I posted them for sale in Facebook groups. Some of them like locally, and I've sold. I want to say a quarter of it. But the funny thing about Zach Hyman, I had him at shows. I had him stickered very reasonably priced, and I got no bites on the high
Yeah.
end, on the mid end. But as soon as it hits eBay auctions, I get way more than my sticker price, like 25 to 30% more. And I know I'm throwing percentages nonstop here, but like it blows me away. And it just makes me realize how big the eBay market is compared to shows and
Sure.
Facebook. And there's a reason the fees are high. It's because of the
Mhm.
So the grading turnout or result was a big win. I mean, huge win, right?
Dude, yes. Yeah, I was really happy with that because it doesn't always turn out like that.
And at this point, your overall confidence that you'll make money on this lot of 40 that you bought is it at 100% yet?
It's not at 100% because I did pay $800 to grade those, so 800 Canadian dollars.
Okay.
So I'm at close to 6 grand Canadian for what I paid, and I think I pocketed around $4,600. So I calculated, I'll calc, I calculated it, and I should almost close to double my investment here.
Wow.
Or my yeah,
Nice.
yeah. It's probably my best win ever in terms of percentage on a collection purchase that I ended up moving.
So is your goal to be kind of out of all of these 40 cards by the time the season starts? Is that the idea?
No, not necessarily by the time the season starts. I'd like to break even by the time it does, and with what I've sent to Slab Sharks, I definitely will, and I'll be in the green. But I did keep, I want to say 8 or 9 cards. Most of
Okay.
them are regular Young Guns and Young Gun foils, and maybe a Future Watch Auto, PSA 10. Uh, so stuff I find, cards that are in the $100 to $300 range in slabs, they move very quickly, and I'm all about velocity, and just I get repeat customers like that. They really enjoy coming to see me at shows, seeing what's fresh for my inventory, seeing what's fresh in my life, and we catch up, and I find my inventory priced fairly. That sweet spot is like $100 to $300 range. And people flip
Well, it's
through my
nice
box.
cards that
Yeah.
don't cost mortgage payments.
Yes,
Right.
exactly.
Although most people don't have a mortgage payment in a month to spend on a card.
Yes. And most people is who I want to deal with. I want to deal with regular people who are passionate collectors. I'm okay selling a high-end card, don't get me wrong, but I love dealing with regular
Yeah.
Joes. Like I feel I can relate to them more.
So Zach Hyman, we're definitely trending to the win column. Congrats, congrats. That's pretty
Thank you.
awesome. Now I'm curious, we've had some big news in the last couple of days about player movement.
Yeah.
And one of those is Patrick Line, who I have a new name for. I think it's pretty funny, but
Let's hear
now I'm setting myself up. Diet PLD.
it. Almost. We'll
Do we,
see.
do we like that? Is that good? Yeah, that's what I'm gonna call him now. Diet
Almost.
PLD.
He probably won't
So
get Fieldy's contract, but yeah. Yeah.
yeah, and Now, were you in on the Line A game at all? Are you getting in, or like what's your play here?
So it's funny. The first graded card I bought when I got back into the hobby was on eBay, and it was a Patrick Line Young Guns BGS 95 True Gem Plus. I think I paid like $250 for it. Like I bought it like at the top of the market, or like as things were exploding. And I ended up buying a few collections or lots with Patrick Liney's in them, and I had 3 BGS 95s, 2 PSA 10s, and a BGS 10 that I brought at shows and I've had with me for about over a year. It would not move. It would just not move. And I feel like I was priced right. My PSA 10s, like last show in Montreal, were priced at $70. No bites. And I eventually took him out and I put him aside. I'm like, there's rumors he might get moved. So I have 6. I had 6 of his Young Guns graded. So I put him aside and I'm like, we'll see what happens. I'm already at a massive loss with the first one I bought. I'm okay just sitting on this and seeing what happens. I don't recommend doing this. It was just by happenstance that it just got set aside because I couldn't move them. I'm like, well, you might leave Columbus. Columbus isn't a great market.
Yeah.
So yeah, I did have, and I put them up for sale yesterday after the trade, and they moved within 10 minutes. Within 10
Did you
minutes.
sell each of them individually, or did you sell them as a lot?
I put them up as a lot. I could have sold them individually to maximize my profit. But, and I know this is going to sound, like I'm virtue signaling, or I'm saying I'm holier than thou or whatever, but there's something that doesn't sit right with me selling at the very, very top for the top dollar amount. I could have sold them all individually. I think I would have made an extra $200, $250, whatever. I put them up as a lot on eBay and in a few Facebook groups at the same time. They were on eBay first because the admin needs to approve your Facebook post. And I want to say it was up for like 5 minutes. Offers started coming in from eBay. I could have priced it a little more. I think I priced it at $999, so $1,000 for those cards, those 6 cards. And I was like, I'd be happy with $900. And so I got $700 offers, $650. I kept countering at 900. And some people just rejected. And one guy kept giving me other offers, and he offered me 3 different offers, and I put 900 every time. And by the time, so they were up on Facebook for about 3 minutes. As soon as they're up, messages start coming in, and then I got an eBay notification: your $900 offer was accepted. I got one guy saying, so I put it up on Facebook for $950. One guy, a vendor, reached out. He's like, I'll take them. I'm like, dude, I'm sorry, dude. I just sold them. He was like, for how much? I was like, 900. He's like, cancel the transaction. I'll give you $1,000.
Wow.
Yeah. And
Well,
yeah, that was tricky.
I think there's a couple things I want to unpack there.
Yes.
And then before we continue. First of all, I think one maybe kind of tip there is, if you post something and there's multiple people giving you offers within 10 minutes, that is a cue to stick to your guns, right? To not take the $600 offer that you listen. If 5 people have offered in 10 minutes, I'm going to get $900. I can be choosy. If it's been up there for 7 months and it's your first offer, then you might want to consider it. So I think there's a little bit of a lesson there. Troy and I talk about all the time about taking the win too. And you were talking about trying to sell at the height of the market. I think that's a fool's errand to try to get the absolute. 99% of the times you're going to miss it, and you're going to end up getting way less. Where you list these cards for 1,000 Canadian. You tell me 6 months ago, what would that same lot have sold for?
When I woke up yesterday morning, those cards together were probably worth around $350 to $400. That's what I told myself.
Yeah. So you sold them for $900. That's a win. Take the win. And in your position, if you do that over and over again, sure, maybe now and again you'll leave $100 on the table here or there. But kind of like you already said, it's about volume and keeping moving. And
Yep.
it's not only one person can set the market high.
Yeah, I completely agree. And you mentioned like, oh, the next time you might leave $100. There might not be a next time if I'm too hesitant to sell. As velocity goes a very long way, and you learn faster that way as well. And the point that you made about getting $600 off or $700 offer right away, in the past, I probably would have accepted that $700 offer. I was so excited about the idea of making the sale that trumped, holding firm. So through the experiences of the last almost 4 years, that's changed where I know when to hold firm now. And I was obviously right. And I like you said, I took the win, and he can make money off that. I'm convinced. Like if he sells 4 of those cards tomorrow, he can make money. And I'd rather help someone make money than leave someone holding the bag.
And the reason why I call him like Diet PLD, he had 3 good years, but that was like 6 years ago now. And he was in the player assistance program. He was a healthy scratch. He was hurt. People think he's lazy. I mean, these are not good signs I get the whole Montreal fans and getting excited and being tantalized by his talent. But if you look at the totality of the evidence, that is a player I'm moving fast.
Yep. And I feel bad for the guy. Like I really liked him the first 2-3 years. I saw a huge star potential. And, like you mentioned, the player assistance, like I think he has mental health issues, and that I feel bad for the guy.
You feel for him, and you hope that nobody roots against anyone. We want every player to be successful.
Absolutely.
We want every card to go up. I've never once rooted for a card to go down. But if in your game, it's about wins and losses and timing.
Absolutely.
And right now, it's all about the excitement and what could be. And the track record these last 5-6 years has not been great.
I agree.
So it's best to capitalize off of that excitement. And the same thing goes, it's not just Diet PLD. It's Bedard. You could think of the same way. You could think every player that's ever. It's hype is what moves momentum in the hobby.
I agree. To add to that about taking the win, since I've been in the hobby, I want to say I've seen about 6 guys completely explode. I remember Ovi, his PSA 10 was 12 grand Canadian at one point. I've seen Jason Robertson go from a $100 PSA 10 to, so there was Robertson. I saw Draisaitl explode, Makar. So Robertson and Makar, I owned stacks of them when they exploded. And I was trying to maximize my profit as much as I could. And I basically, I did get wins, kind of like I just did with this lot, but I tortured myself for almost weeks for not getting, because after they sold, they kept going up. And I was like, oh, I could have waited 3 days. I should have held firm. I tortured myself. And that's worse than the $300 gain or the $300 I left at the table. I learned that, I tortured myself twice selling too early. And I realized that it's not worth it. And it's also impossible to time the market 100%. So don't beat yourself up if ever that happens to you. Yeah.
The other thing I wanted to bring up in this example is, sure, it was a little bit lucky, or fortune was in your favor that Patrick Laine was traded to the Canadians of all people, right? That's a good, very good fortune there.
Yep.
But you also recognized the opportunity
Mhm.
and you acted quickly in order to capitalize on it. And so I think those are a couple good things for people to take away too, is
100%.
that watching the news in a way that enables you to think strategically and say, okay, is there a play for me here?
Totally. Yeah. And it just by happenstance, like I don't recommend holding, and I don't hold much. Like I said, it's because I couldn't move the guy, and he kept going down, and I'm like, well, I got extremely lucky. These odds were not in my favor. I could have bought a lottery ticket and had the same odds, and it panned out. I also have a stat. The only other guy I have, well, other than Ty Smith, which I don't think I'll ever get anything.
We've been
for.
through that.
Yeah, we have. Is Bowen
Oh, wait,
Byron.
Troy's you're the economics guy, Troy. Is that like sunk cost fallacy? Is that what that's kind of
Yep.
It's
called?
sunk. Yeah, I think so. Sunk cost fallacy.
What does that
We'll say
mean
that.
again?
I don't ask me. Like you're so far into it that you're just gonna hold out instead of taking your losses.
Yeah.
I think is something like that. I'll look it up real quick. The phenomenon by whereby a person is reluctant to abandon a strategy or course of action because they have invested heavily in it. So just like I said with Sylvain shaking his head like, yes, you're on the right path.
Yeah.
Econ's been a while since I've done some econ research.
Mhm.
I actually Chris Sewell, one of my favorite YouTubers, card related. That's not a podcast, of course. Is
Thank you.
has a video.
Thank you.
Has a video that about the sunk cost fallacy applying to sports cards. I watched that video maybe 2 years ago, and it blew my mind. Like I was like, oh man, he's doing exactly what I was. He's explaining exactly the mistakes I was doing, and that I've noticed in 90% of my fellow vendors that
Mhm.
I love dearly, but I used to take their advice. And now I'm like, because I remember when my car exploded, there were vendors like, I have my cars, but I'm not selling them. I'm like,
Yeah.
okay, holding's a strategy here. That's the strategy. And it was not the strategy. And I think, yeah, it's very common. Like it's a very common way to react. It's intuitive, and it's counterintuitive to, you know, cut your losses and move on.
I think though that that's a collector's mindset, because to me the dealer mindset, and this is part, Savannah, of my education and understanding the hobby. I would have made the same mistake that you're talking about 2 months ago. But if you're a true dealer, it's not that like when Kale McCarr explodes that you're going to hold forever for the big payday. I think the savvy dealer, so let's say that's 4 years down the road in the best case scenario, will be in and out of Kale McCarr 15 times in that process and make
100%.
money 15 times versus
Agree.
take that big risk,
I agree.
and which may never he gets hurt or has some scandal or just starts to stink,
Yep.
then you're left holding the bag.
100%. And I remember the first Matthews Young Guns that I sold. I was like, oh, like it hurt. I was like, oh my god, like this is a card that could very much go up, and I do think it could go up. But I've had since then at least 15 to 20 Matthews Young Guns pass through my hands. And if I were to hold that first one and X and Y and Z, sorry, or no, Z is the American way. I wouldn't have had those 15 other come through my hands. Like
Yeah.
again, velocity. I think velocity is the theme here. It's very important, especially for vendors.
And a 20% profit is good in any traditional business sense. That I think is a good outcome, where as collectors, like we're in this sort of lottery fantasy mode. It's like we want to buy a card for $10 and sell for 10,000. Like that's
Oh
our
yeah, yeah.
complete pie in the
Yep.
sky. Sure, it's happened, but just because it happened once doesn't mean it's likely to happen all the time.
Yep.
Like the one
So
guy that opened with the Topps box of baseball with his son, he got 48 autographs in it.
Oh
Yeah.
my
Those are on purpose. They're calling them magic boxes now. That
Mm.
Fanatics
Oh,
is putting
yes.
out.
Yeah. Well, I mean, imagine we're not going to get into like the tactics that they're using, but imagine knowing that that's out there and how easy it'll be
Hey,
to move for them
CT
now.
scanners.
Yeah, that too. Yeah,
Oh,
yeah,
oh my
yeah.
gosh.
That's a
All
whole
right.
other topic. Yeah,
So
I'm gonna bring up CT scanner on anything I can do from now on.
yeah, yeah. No kidding.
So everything's coming up roses right now. It's fun to be on it. You're on a heater. Any losses recently, or is just everything you have the Midas touch?
Thank you for asking, because I was going to get to that, and I was going to say, even though I'm on the track of doubling my money on Hyman, if you look at my spreadsheet, there are some cards I lost $50 on. There's one card I lost $500 on. So like
Ooh,
Mhm.
that.
which one's that?
So it was an Austin Matthews PSA 10. I got it for a really good deal. I bought 3 from the guy, and then I ended
Apparently
up
you
buying
didn't.
5 from this. What's yeah, yeah, yeah. So what happened was, this was at the Sports Card Fest in Saint-Hyacinthe in June, mid-June. I had my 3 Austin Matthews PSA 10s there, and I sold one for straight cash. And then I moved 2 for part trade, part cash. And the one of the part trade, part cashes was like $300 in cash. I should pull up the card. It's one of those die cut rookie year McDavid cards. This so during this festival, uh, Edmonton had just won, I think maybe its second game. So it was
Okay.
3-2 Panthers, and McDavid. There was hype for McDavid, and I gotta find this exact card here. I'll keep talking while I find it here, because I did auction it off. So what happened was, so I got that card, another like $60, like the draft McDavid card, and yeah, I want to say like $300 to $400. So this die cut rookie card, this obscure die cut rookie card of McDavid, he had priced at around 11. His sticker was like $1100 or $1200, and I knew it wasn't worth that much. That's why I ended up getting $200 to $300 cash and another card. So a good way when you're not sure what something is worth that you took in is to auction it right away. So that's exactly what I did. I had a bad feeling about that transaction, so I immediately auctioned it off. Here it is. I have it right here. It is a 2015 Upper Deck Full Force McDavid rookie die cut, and it's a BGS 9.5, a true gem. And die cuts grade hard, and this is not a very common card. So I auctioned that card off, and it sold for $325 on auction. So
Ouch.
yeah. So
Well,
I learned a valuable lesson there, and I do get losses like these this big. They're rare, but my average loss is like I'll lose $32 here, $50 there, $100 here. Those add up. So my big wins even those out. As long as those big wins, or my regular 20% wins outweigh this, I'm not panicking. But there's no way to not have that. It's impossible to completely avoid those.
well, and I think too, as long as you learn from it, like
Yes.
I would assume that a takeaway from that situation is rare and desirable is good, rare and obscure and cards people don't really care about,
Yep.
not so good, right?
Yep.
Just because it's rare doesn't mean that everyone's going to be tripping over themselves to buy it from you. And so
Yeah.
like maybe going forward, you shop that card to your group, your friend group, or your group of confidants, and you say,
Yeah.
"Hey, I'm looking at this deal. Is this card good? Is it rare and that in a way nobody cares about, or is it rare in a way that people in the right
Right.
setting would go nuts over?" And then I suppose it doesn't help you either now knowing that Matthews was named captain of the
Yeah.
Leafs.
Yeah. But it's okay, because I ended up like I still have 3
Yeah.
PSA or 2 PSA 10 Young Guns Matthews. My plan, like I was planning on moving some and holding some, and That's another strategy. If I have bulk of a guy and young guns, the reason I love young guns is that well, number one, they're liquid, and number two, there's a comp from 30 minutes ago, likely.
Yeah.
And so it's really easy to track the value. So my biggest takeaway here is when I'm stocked 95% young guns and future watch autos, that's what I'll take and trade. Like
Yeah.
unless it's a huge card that I know is desirable and rare, I'll take that on trade. But
Mhm.
most of what I'm going to take in now, young guns and future watch autos. That's it. That's it.
Okay, cool. So we've covered a couple wins, we've covered a couple a loss, and we balanced it out with that. Before we kind of run out of time, I am interested in sort of this timing and how you're approaching the fact that we're about a week and a half away from September. So that means that we're still probably what, 6 weeks or more? No, wait, September. Yeah,
Yeah.
6 weeks or so away from the start of the season. Is that,
Yep.
am I doing my math right?
I think
So
so.
is this a buying time? Is this a selling time? Is it neither?
Honestly, I don't really do play that game anymore. I do to a degree, but not that much. So like those Matthews that I bought them all during the summer, and I sold 80% of them during the summer, or 60% of them
Mhm.
during the summer. Like, and I gotta say, as you know, my fifth summer in the hobby, this is the healthiest summer I've ever seen. Like the
Mm.
dart cards are still going up a little bit. Like they're up
Yeah.
from April, and Matthews cards are up. Not every player's Nathan McKinnon cards. I don't understand why they're so low. So if I see a Nathan McKinnon lot that I think is worth buying, I actually have the draft day the
Yeah.
Yep.
draft day
Marks.
plates there. Marks, thank you. Jeez, a DDM behind me that I bought this summer because I'm like, well, I think this was before he bought won the heart, and he did end up winning it, but nothing happened to his values. And you have covered that, I know, but I do think to answer your question, it depends on what comes my way, and if it's basically anyone but Nathan McKinnon, I'm going to try to move it as fast as I can. I do have a
Mhm.
show coming up at the end of September too, a local show. So I am trying to stock up a little bit on that. I have some cards out for grading, and so yeah, it is still kind of buy time. I don't want to, but I always try to move a little bit, even during the summer,
Yeah.
especially a healthy
So
summer.
you're looking for the right deal still. It's selective buying.
Yes,
Can we linger on the McKinnon thing a little bit?
yeah, absolutely.
I understand anyone's temptation, and I'm not even trying to put words in your mouth, to try to convince yourself that there's got to be upside with Nathan McKinnon. But then there's a part of me that says he's won a Stanley Cup.
Mm,
He's won a Hart Trophy. He had a better year than Connor McDavid, and still nobody cares. What could possibly happen going forward to change it's like, are we fooling ourselves at this point? Nothing against him as a player, or nothing against people that PC him, because actually it's kind of a better PC situation. It means everything's cheaper. But as a bankable investment type player, what could possibly change at this point?
that's not a bad that's a very good point. And I don't know, maybe if he repeats the season, maybe, but I think he's a very good, and I'm not saying that's what I'm gonna do. I can't
Yeah.
necessarily afford to do this, but I think he's a good 10-year hold, like, or 6 or 7-year hold. Like I think people are gonna catch on eventually that he's
Yeah,
undervalued.
eventually they'll figure it out and be like, hey, that McKinnon guy was pretty good.
Yeah.
Can
No
we talk
kidding.
about that though? Like the 10-year hold thing.
Yeah.
I would assume that that's like wine, right? The
Yep,
naive
yep.
wine collector thinks, well, I can go to the liquor store, buy any bottle of wine, and in 10
Mhm.
years, it'll be a million times better. But when you learn about wine, what you learn is only very specific types of wine can be stored for that long and have the opportunity to appreciate in value. So if you were going to say, I want to make a bet on McKinnon on a
Yep.
long term hold, I would assume at that point that you have to know some very specific cards
Yep.
to pick, that it's not necessarily some run of the mill young guns. It's a cup RPA or it's a limited logo, so like some like very specific, very revered high end card that would be desirable. And that makes that situation a little, I don't want to say trickier. You just have to have a lot more knowledge and understanding of the hobby to execute that well.
Yes, and you do have to have a few $1,000s that you're willing to park. And in this economy, not everyone has that
Mhm.
kind of money to park for long periods of time. So, yeah.
And the other thing too, like with even in that scenario, I've seen, I don't really have the context like Jeremy Lee does, but he talks a lot. Like when we see a good example would be like the 2005 Upper Deck Ice, the Ice premieres for Ovi and Crosby that were out of 99. That like 6, 7, 8 years ago, those were massive cards,
Right.
like massive. And at the time, you would have probably thought, oh, I'm going to hold this card. But now it's not a card that people care about as much
Yeah.
anymore. It doesn't get people real excited because I think Upper Deck has watered down the ice premieres by having like 400 parallels of it. And, we don't
Mhm.
need to get into the reasons. But the point being is that was like the card. And now tastes have changed. So you run that risk too on those long terms that you don't know how our tastes and cards will change.
Very true. And I do think, I mean, there might be some massive changes down the line. We'll never know, but I do think the young guns, especially the tens and the young guns exclusives and the young guns
Yeah,
high gloss and the clear cuts,
sure.
like that's the high end that I think will always be desirable. The high
That's a good
gloss
point.
exclusives, etc. Because I think the young guns is, it being the first true rookie card that they that the hobby has deemed, it's I think it'll always be desirable, and it'll steadily go up like wine.
You know what realization I just had, Troy? That was kind
What?
of fun about doing these conversations with Sylvain is ever since sort of the pandemic cooled down a little bit, we don't really get to talk like this much about cards anymore.
No, no,
It's a
true.
lot.
And I'll tell you, no, this is like that's kind of like why I really enjoyed listening. I can just listen to Sylvan give
Oh,
us
thank you, Troy. I
'cause
thought it was boring
this is
you.
like my ASMR, man. I just go to bed listening to the dulcet
Troy's asleep,
tones,
Sylvain, but it's not
dulcet
an
tones
insult.
of Sylvan.
He
Well,
fell
my
asleep
other
Awesome.
because
takeaway,
he enjoys you.
my
Good,
other
good.
takeaway is now I'm just kind of put you on the spot. I see Titan back there, right? Titan, is that his name?
Tyson, yeah,
Tyson. Why did I say Titan?
yeah.
Yeah, he's in the back. I see him on the couch. So that I always love seeing dogs in
Oh,
the
he's my big boy. He's 10 now, so he's slowing down. That's why
yeah.
I let him on the couch and he sleeps, most of the day now. But yeah,
Well, I have one more
appreciate that
question for you,
for sure.
and then we'll let Troy see if he has any. But so when we talk to you again, whether it's like 3 weeks or a month from now, in a perfect world, kind of what is your what moves have you made? Where are you at? Just even high level, like where would you hope to be 3 weeks, a month from today?
Sure. And I want to say before I answer, I very much appreciate these questions because sometimes these aren't even things I'll consider until I get asked. And it's very, I like journaling, but I'm inconsistent because of my
Mhm.
ADHD. And this is a very good way for me to journal and actually have, almost like a mirror and be able to
Mhm.
observe what I'm doing because of the questions I'm being asked. So thank you for asking those questions. I very much appreciate it. To answer the question, uh, I do have, as far as vendor goes, like I do have, I'm comfortable with my inventory. I do have my local show coming at the end of September, like I said. The
Mhm.
weekend after that is the Montreal Expo, where I'll be going and representing Slab Sharks. The weekend after that is the Van City show, Vancouver, the first card show of its kind, which in Vancouver. So hopefully, that becomes a regular thing. That's
Yep.
that's brought to you by Slab Sharks. So I'll be there at their booth as well. So there are, in terms of my calendar, it's quite booked, and I'm very much looking forward to. As far as my inventory goes, I do have some cards that are off for grading. I do have the biggest thing is I have a very close friend who loves buying and grading, but he hates selling. So we have a really nice relationship where it's like he'll build up this lot of anywhere between 100 and 200 PSA slabs. And then when it's time to sell, me and him, he gives me the list. I put it out on a spreadsheet. I comp it out. Each card, I tell him what I'm willing to offer. And I put my sticker price there. So then when it's time to price it, and he always sells before the season starts. So it's perfect for me. So I can reference the spreadsheet and price them accordingly once I get them. So that will be coming my way probably end of September, right before my end of September show or before the Montreal Expo. So I'm very much looking forward to that. And there are a few things that I'm working on that I can't talk about right now that I'm really excited for, and hopefully in the next few podcasts. Yeah, exactly. Hopefully in the next few podcasts I can talk about it.
Well, I appreciate you complimenting my questions. I don't know if you know, but I'm the Barbara Walters of the hockey hobby, and Troy is the Hugh Downs. So, Hugh, do you got any questions for Sylvain?
Actually, I'm looking at one thing real quick. Okay, here's my question for you, Sylvain.
Yes.
If I end up at Advanced City, can you get me passes?
I probably can. I'll have to talk to like a media pass or vendor pass, or
I don't know. Just get me in the building.
We'll talk offline about that because there's already been conversations, Troy. You're just
I might be out in that general vicinity on those dates already for a family
I'll buy you your entrance if
no, I can pay. I was laughing about it. I was trying to get the free passes and then just buy myself in.
We're cheap.
Yeah. We make no money.
Yeah. Well, I think it was super enlightening, and what I love about this is being able to kind of go through your experience, sort of follow along on the ride, but then I believe that there's, in all these circumstances, takeaways that we can all apply, whether we're trying to buy and flip cards or just trying to get the best deals or trying to sell at the right time, that there's good stuff to be learned here. So thank you again. I think chapter 3 was a success and can't wait to come back and play the creepy music again, because that's my favorite part.
For sure. And I don't know if I specified this, but with the Line A cards, when I got offered $1,000, I said, listen, man, the deal's already made. I think some people would have taken the money, but I'm like, my reputation's worth more than an extra few $100s here.
Yeah.
And I think that's
so is mine, but Troy's isn't. That's a topic for a different show.
Yeah, totally. But thank you guys. I appreciate you guys for having me as always, and I can't wait for the next episode.
All right, see you soon, man. Bye-bye.
See ya. Take care.
Okay, well, I thought that was fantastic. What did you think, Troy?
I love the insights. I love that he shares the wins, the losses, the lessons. And also, I thought it was interesting what he said, how just strong the hobby market's been this summer, especially for hockey.
Yep.
It's really hasn't. Are we ready to call the summer dip dead? I guess it's probably more specific on the card or the team or whatever, but it's like coming in when we started our show, it's like, hobby dip. It's going to dip in the summer. And then all of a sudden, we had the couple examples where that's not really the case all the time.
Yeah, I'm glad he said that too, because I was thinking we were going to have the dip and we never did. Everything I was watching never went anywhere.